Yo, what's up, Fishbox friends? How y'all doing today? Hope you're enjoying the day. Hope the summer is going well for you. I guess now, by the time you're seeing this, the summer is pretty much going to be over, I guess unofficially, but now that the summer is over, it's time to get on the grind. Some of you out there may be considering building your own mailbox store, starting your own mailbox store, or just getting started on some other business. And maybe you found this and clicked on it because you're looking to raise some money to start your business. I get it. It takes money to make money. So I'm going to tell you my story on how I raised $30,000 to start my mailbox store. So maybe something from this video can help you out. But before I jump right into it, because I got a lot of stuff to talk about, I want to make a couple things clear. Number one, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I am not your financial advisor. What this is me sharing my story on how I raised $30,000 to start my business. So I want to make that clear. All right, so let's jump right into it. So the first way I was able to raise money for my mailbox store was by having a job. I know it may sound a little silly and some of you may not want to hear that, but it's true. I had a job working for a really cool company called I-76 Solutions. Shout out to Drew, by the way. And I worked at that business for, I don't know, maybe about a year. And while I was working there, that's when I first had the idea to start Fishbox, because I kept missing my packages and I figured there had to be a better way. I talked with the owner of the business there, who was also an entrepreneur, and I let him know that I wanted to start my business the same way that he had started his business. And what was really cool is that he worked with me. After I had my initial idea, I worked there for another month or two, but I quickly realized that if I really was going to go forward with this business, I needed time to build it. So him and I, we sat down and spoke, and it made a lot of sense for me to continue working for that business, but working in a freelance role. So it worked out for both of us. They didn't have to pay me a salary and benefits, but at the same time, I didn't have to be in the office 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and I didn't have to drive all the way over there. I had more free time. So I had a job initially, and that's the money that I used to help get things going. Of course, that wasn't enough money for me to get the business all the way started, but it was a nice start. All right, the next thing that I did to raise some money was, I don't know, at the time I really wasn't proud of it, but I did what I had to do. And now that I look back on it, I'm realizing, oh wow, it actually wasn't that bad. I was driving for Uber, Lyft, and bagging up groceries for Instacart. You guys might have heard about the gig economy. I was really big on the gig economy back in the day when it had just come to Philly. It was brand new to Philly when I first started, and I jumped right in. Anything that I could do to get money but still stay flexible with my time, I was all about that. And the cool thing about Uber, Lyft, Instacart, stuff like that is that you can turn it on when you want to work and you can turn it off when you don't want to. If I had some free time, a few hours in the day or maybe late at night, what I would do is I would turn the app on, I would drive for a few hours. If I knew that there was a big event coming to Philly and it was between, I don't know, like at the nighttime, like a concert or a big football game or something like that, I would turn the app on around those times so I could maximize the amount of money that I can make during that time. And then when it was all over with, I would turn it off. I would bag up groceries for Instacart. I didn't have any shame. I just wanted to get as much money as I possibly could, because even though number one, I told you I was working freelance, the money that I was making wasn't enough to cover every single one of my expenses, especially when I started investing in the business. I needed to pay for a website and needed to pay for marketing. I needed a little bit more money to make that happen. So by being flexible with the gig economy stuff, it allowed me to have a little bit extra revenue, but it also allowed me to have that flexibility, which at that time I desperately needed. Maybe you have a car right now. Maybe you live in a neighborhood where Uber and Lyft are pretty big. Maybe there's something like an Instacart or a DoorDash or a Grubhub or something like that you can join. Look, I get it. Maybe you were working at a job that makes 6 figures, or maybe you have one now. And to take a step all the way back and drive for Uber and Lyft might be a blow to your ego. Trust me, it was. I know exactly how it feels to pull up to somebody that requested an Uber and they get in the back seat only to realize that somebody you went to high school with, or somebody you worked with at a previous job, or even somebody that you dated before. Remember, you're the only person that's holding yourself back, just like it was holding me back. But if you can look past that and move past that, you'll be better off. So the next thing I did was spoke to friends and family. If you have people in your family that believe in you and you're doing the right things and you've earned their trust, if you have friends around you that really believe in you and want to invest in you, I would say reach out to them. Say, hey, I'm starting this business. I've taken it as far as I can. I've spent all my money. I've done everything that I possibly could do. I'm almost at the finish line to open it up, but I need your help. So make sure that you have all your ducks in a row as far as like what you want to do, and don't be ashamed if they ask you for a business plan or how you're going to make money. Make sure you know these things and answer their questions, because by asking friends and family for money, some of them are going to give it to you. I'm going to be honest. Most of them are going to say no. And I'm also going to be honest. It's going to hurt to have to ask friends and family for some money, especially if you came from a job in a position where you had enough resources to be able to do some really cool things. It may seem as a step back, and it may be another blow to your ego, but if you're really passionate about your dream like I was, you'll be willing to go to your friends and family and ask for what it is that you need. I only got about maybe $1,000, $1,500 from asking all those people, but that was something. $1,500 at the time was enough to get me a month worth of rent, and that was a really big help at the time. So don't be afraid to ask friends and family if you need it. So another thing I did was I started selling my stuff. I was a big sneakerhead at the time, and I had all these sneakers. I had probably over 100 pairs of sneakers, and I'm talking about all the hype stuff, all the Jordans, all the Air Maxes, the LeBrons, all that stuff I had. Some of them I hadn't even worn before. I was keeping them thinking that I was gonna either collect them or was it gonna be an investment. I did get at least 50 cents on the dollar for many of these shoes. So from selling all my shoes, I think I was able to bring in about $2,000 to $3,000 just from selling my shoes. I also sold some of my clothes. I had some Supreme stuff back in the day, some Polo, and some things that people really collected. And because of that, I was able to get some of that money back and reinvest into my business. I also had some old technology devices lying around, some old iPhones, some old laptops, some old iPads, some old camera gear and camera equipment. So I was able to sell all that stuff, and I think after selling all those things, I came up with about between $4,000 and $5,000 from that. So look around your house, see what you have that you don't really need anymore, that you don't really want anymore. Are you hoarding a bunch of stuff? Do you have a bunch of stuff just sitting in your garage or sitting in your apartment? See if you can put some of that stuff on eBay. See if you can put it on Craigslist. Go to those same friends and family and say, hey, look, I know you're not going to give me the money outright because, I don't know, I don't deserve it right now maybe, but are you willing to buy some of these things that I have lying around? What's your shoe size? What size are you wearing jackets? See if you can start selling some of your things, and you'd be surprised how much money you can get just by selling some of the things around the house. Something that I did even when I was working at my second job is I started using my camera, because I was really big into photography, to actually make money from it. I was, believe it or not, a really good photographer, but I posted a lot of pictures on my Instagram. A couple musician friends that I had would ask me to come out to their shows and make some images of them. I would do some photography for maybe an album cover. I had a friend that was getting married that hired me to come take photos for his reception. I had a clothing line reach out to me and want me to do some promo work for them. So I used that camera to generate a significant amount of money. It probably was less than $1,000, I would say. But if I really would have kept at it and really would have focused on that, I think I could have made a lot more. So if you're a photographer, a videographer, or you have some skills that you can use that people need, especially if it involves content. People really want to get content generated and they're really not good at it. Most people aren't. So if you can let them know that you can help them with their content, help them generate content that can help their business, and have some type of resume, it doesn't necessarily have to be a whole full-blown website or anything like that, but at least have an Instagram where you can showcase some of your work. Once you show people that and you're good enough, people will start to be interested in you, and you may even have to do a couple freelance jobs at first to get your experience up, but over time you can start using your camera for some really good things and generate a little bit of revenue to use to pour into your store. So just keep that one in mind. Alright, so the next one, remember, when I told you that this was not financial advice, keep that in mind for this one specifically. In fact, I would go as far as saying not to do this one. I'm just going to tell you what I did to get some of the money. Do with that what you may. So maybe 2 years into the business, when money was getting really tight, I remembered that I had an old 401k at a previous job. I reached out to that employer and I asked to speak to the financial person at the company, and it did turn out that I had money still sitting over there in my old 401k. It was maybe about $4,000 to $4,500. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was enough money to give me some breathing room. About 3 months worth of rent, which at the time was humongous. And I wouldn't advise you to go out and empty your 401k or even take any of that money, because there's a lot of tax implications for something like that. But I was in dire need of some money. I needed about maybe $2,000. And so to find out that there was about $4,500 in the account, that felt like to me like a blessing. And so I had to unfortunately empty out my 401k at my previous job to be able to continue building my dream. And not saying that's something that you could do or you should do. I'm just telling you what I did and how I was determined to build this business and how I sacrificed as much as I possibly could. So remember that one if you have it there and you have an emergency, but I would not advise you emptying out your 401k. Save that for the future. So the next thing that I did, I think a lot of you that watch my videos, at least have been watching them for a year or two, would remember, is that I sold my apartment and I was living in the back of the fish box store. So at the time, when I first started my business, I had an office. Actually, a couple years into starting my business, I had my own office space. Fishbox had our own office space. And it was great because I could work there during the day. When I was done, I can go home and be at my apartment and kind of have a little bit more freedom there. But it came down to it where the money that I had saved up of the roughly 30K was getting very, very low, dangerously low, to the point where I thought I might have to close the business and go back to putting those pleated khakis on. And you know I was not trying to do that. So I had the idea of, man, what if I got rid of my apartment and I lived in the back of the fish box store? So at the time, the fish box store was zoned as a commercial and a residential unit. So what that means is that I was allowed to do business there, but it also had the amenities that you would need to be zoned as a residential property. For example, it had a shower in the bathroom so that I could shower up in there. It had a back room that was basically a bedroom where it had a kitchenette in there. It had a sink in there. It even had a back door that went out to some outdoor space where we had a hammock posted up back there. You can check out some of the old videos to check that out. But I thought if I can live back here, my runway could go from, at the time, I think I had about 3 to 4 months left on my runway based off the money I had saved up. I could take that from 3 to 4 months to another year. You know, you want to talk about a blow to your ego, to tell your friends that you're living in the back of your store. You don't even have an official apartment yet. That was kind of bad. I wasn't telling family members that I was living in the back of the fish box store. None of the fish box customers knew I was in the back of the fish box store living. And so I wasn't sure if they found out, if they would not want to use the service anymore. But I really wanted to make my runway as long as possible and save up as much money as I possibly could so that I didn't have to go back to work. And quite honestly, I really believed in this dream. I really thought back then, when I was really struggling, eating ramen noodles every day and living in the back of the fish box store, I really thought back then that today would exist. And what I mean by today, I really believed that I would have an office space where I could have enough money to support myself and other people, that I would be able to have a great time in the office and be able to build something truly special. So me sleeping in the back of the fish box store for about a year to 18 months really didn't bother me too much. It did bother me, but it didn't bother me too much because I knew if I could make it through that, I could make it to the promised land. So I wouldn't tell you to live in the back of your store if you don't have to, but I'm just saying, again, this is what I did, and I don't know, it may be an option for you. The next thing that I did to continue my mailbox store journey was sell my car. At the time I had a car, I had purchased it brand new a few years before, and I loved that car. It gave me the freedom to get from A to B, but also do it in style. It was insurance, gas, keep up, labor, car note, all these things added up came to about $1,000 a month. And that was really, really hurting me. And it felt like every 6 months I had to get the tires rotated or I had to get something fixed on that car. It just was a money pit. And because of that, my runway was getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So to make my runway a little bit longer, to have a little bit more money in my pocket, I sold my car. See, I live in Philadelphia, where if you want to get somewhere, you can walk a lot of places. It's not that big of a deal. If not, you can Uber other places. You may not be in a location where it's easy to get rid of your car. So I'm not saying get rid of your car. And again, this isn't financial advice. I'm just telling you what it is that I did. So if that's an option for you, maybe you have a car, maybe you have multiple cars, or maybe you have another property you don't need. Maybe you need to consider, if this is your goal, that you might want to do something with that. Again, not financial advice, but just telling you what it is that I did. All right, and lastly, and I think most importantly, I think a big thing that we should also consider is how can you be saving more money? Because making more money isn't always possible. If you can do a combination of making a little bit more money and saving a little bit more money, then that'll equal to a lot of money that you'll have to pour into your business. So I'm going to talk about a few things that I cut out, a few things that I stopped doing so that I can make my runway a little bit longer. First one, I know I joke about this a lot. I stopped the Starbucks runs. Look, I know Starbucks coffee is just going to be $5, $6, $7 a day, but that stuff adds up. Let's say you got a $5 coffee every day. That's $150 a month. That might be enough for your insurance premiums. Actually, my insurance premium for the store is roughly about $175, $180 a month. So by just cutting that out and getting you a coffee maker, you'll be able to invest in something else. Maybe that'll cover your phone bill. Maybe that'll cover gas for something to get to work, or maybe it'll cover a bus pass. But start looking at the little things you spend your money on, or it might be a Hulu subscription or some type of online subscription that you don't really use that you can get rid of. Start whittling things down so that you can have just the bare necessities to make your runway as long as possible. You know, another thing too, this is gonna hurt to say, but at that time that I was raising my money, I wasn't doing as many social things. You know how this goes. You go out to happy hour with a bunch of guys or girls that, they have one of those jobs where they got a significant amount of money. One person buys around, the second person buys around, the third person buys around. Now it comes down to you. What do you think you got to do? You got to buy around for everybody. And these people, they're not drinking Natty Light. These people are ordering espresso martinis and Manhattans and old fashions and Negronis. So now it's time for you to buy around. You don't even really want anymore. You're thinking about getting back home so you can work on your business. But now you're stuck with a $60, $70 tab because everybody else bought rounds of drinks, and now you got to buy one because you feel that social pressure. Tell me if this sounds familiar. A friend that you haven't spoken to in years invites you to their wedding. It's in another country. Now you have to pay for a flight to Italy. Now you have to pay for an Airbnb in Italy for 3-4 days. Now you have to take that time away from your job and find somebody to cover for you. So now you got to pay them. You don't have a suit, so now you got to buy one. Maybe you don't have childcare, so now you got to hire somebody or take your kids with you and pay for another flight. Of course, you got to get a gift for the bride and groom, so that costs money. I'm not saying going to weddings is a bad thing, but what I'm saying is that when I was going through this, I had to tell people no. And I had to tell family members, look, I can't make it to your birthday party this year. I had to tell friends, look, I'm sorry, but I can't make it to your wedding this year. I just do not have the money. And essentially what we got to do is be a little more selfish. And I know it hurts to be selfish, but it is necessary. You need to learn how to say no a lot more to be able to say yes to yourself. I didn't buy any new clothes for years. I went to the thrift store that we have down here. Shout out to Philly AIDS Thrift and Circle Thrift. And I went over there and I bought all my clothes there. $1, $2 for some jeans, 50 cents for some shirts on certain days. That's the sacrifice I was willing to make because I knew that people didn't care what I looked like when they came into the store. All I cared about, is this clean? Does this make me presentable? And is this something that if I get it dirty from a package falling on it, that I can just either throw it away or throw it in the wash? So look at all those designer clothes that you have. Stop it. Stop buying those. Get you some regular clothes. Keep the stuff that you got already. Go to the thrift store if you have to. All right, y'all. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you guys learned something from this. If you want to speak more about some of this stuff or starting your own mailbox store, we offer 1-hour one-on-one video consultations, and you can ask me any questions you may have to help you on your journey. The link's down in the description. On that note, I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.